Tonight, the war on terror, nearly 7 years after 9/11, it's a losing battle against al-Qaeda's home base, and the U.S. death toll continues to grow. I'm Katie Couric. Also tonight, the 4th of July holiday week begins with fireworks over the presidential candidate's patriotism and heroism. Forget about the Middle East. The answer to America's oil problems may lie right here in the Colorado Rockies. And the new milk jug, it could save the earth and save you money if you can figure out how to pour it.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
And good evening, everyone. After the 9/11 attacks, President Bush vowed to hunt down the terrorists responsible. In Afghanistan alone, 500 Americans have been killed and billions of dollars have been spent. But tonight, there's increasing evidence al-Qaeda is making a comeback just across the border in Pakistan, in the lawless tribal territories where the Pakistani government has little or no control. From the Pentagon tonight, here's David Martin.
Pakistan's latest attempt to oust al-Qaeda and the Taliban from their safe havens in the frontier area has been, according to U.S. officials, ineffective. One militant leader was actually tipped off to the coming offensive by sympathizers within the Pakistani military. Besides, says Pentagon consultant Seth Jones, it's not even close to what's needed.
What's needed in the tribal areas is a much longer approach, clearing territory and holding it.
This offensive is focused in the area of the Khyber Pass, where the Taliban publicly execute suspected American spies and mount cross-border raids into Afghanistan.
The command and control structure of every major insurgent group is in the Pakistani side of the border. So this is critical to success in Afghanistan.
In June, more American soldiers have been killed in Afghanistan than in Iraq.
It's reasonable to argue that the situation is far worse today than it was 4 or 5 years ago.
Not only for Afghanistan, but for the U.S.
The most likely area that's going to be linked to an attack in the United States is coming from this area.
U.S. troops call in air and artillery strikes at anyone shooting at them from Pakistan. Commandos sometimes cross the border on covert operations aimed at finding Osama bin Laden. And unmanned Predator drones launch missiles at senior al-Qaeda leaders. But the sanctuaries remain.
I don't think the limited strikes from Afghanistan or Predator strikes will ever accomplish what is needed, and that is a clearing of territory and holding it.
With the war against terror now in its 7th year, U.S. officials acknowledge there is no real strategy for digging out al-Qaeda and the Taliban from their safe havens. Katie?
David Martin at the Pentagon tonight. David, thank you. Lara Logan is our chief foreign affairs correspondent. Lara, clearly the U.S. policy in Afghanistan has been ineffective, but many believe that members of the military, their hands are tied. Why haven't they been more aggressive about going after these terrorists in Pakistan?
Because they haven't been allowed to. They couldn't get the political support to do that. The U.S. government policy wouldn't allow them to. What it's meant is they've had to stay on the Afghan side of the border and watch militants come across that border, shoot at them, kill them, bomb them, and escape to safety, and they could do nothing about it.
And they couldn't do this because of President Musharraf and his relationship with the U.S. government, right?
Yes, the U.S. government was so terrified that Musharraf was going to be removed from power and they would lose their key ally. But that's happened anyway through democratic means, and we still have to deal with that reality.
And I was going to ask you, now that his power has been weakened significantly, isn't this a good window of opportunity for the U.S. to change its strategy?
It is, and it's also a critical window when you look at the reality of what's developed in the tribal areas. However, there's a power vacuum in Pakistan. The government is weak, it's divided, there's no real consensus. They don't have a proper U.S. policy or even a policy yet to deal with al-Qaeda and the Taliban. So it's a very difficult time for us as well, but it's an opportunity that really we can't afford to waste.
All right. Lara Logan, Lara, thank you so much. Continuing now in the war on terror, Pentagon officials announced today they're charging a Saudi with organizing and directing the bombing of the USS Cole in 2000. 17 American sailors were killed in that attack. The suspect, Abdul Rahim al-Nashiri, has been held at Guantanamo Bay for 2 years. He claims he only confessed after being tortured by U.S. interrogators. Now turning to the presidential campaign, today John McCain returned fire after a surprising attack on one of his biggest strengths, This as Barack Obama tried to shore up what some believe is one of his biggest weaknesses. Here's Dean Reynolds.
For Barack Obama, his speech today in Missouri was the latest attempt to rebut insinuations that he is less than loyal to the country.
I will never question the patriotism of others in this campaign. And I will not stand idly by when I hear others question mine.
But he has faced such questions for months. Mostly on the internet, it's a campaign to sow doubts about him.
Obama was enrolled in school as a Muslim while living in Indonesia.
Obama now wears an American flag pin in his lapel and is often at events where Old Glory is prominent. He clearly believes patriotism should be off the table.
No party or political philosophy has a monopoly on patriotism. And surely we can arrive at a definition of patriotism that, however rough and imperfect, captures the best of America's common spirit.
And yet that lofty sentiment contrasted with statements made Sunday by one of his more high-profile supporters, retired General Wesley Clark, who dismissed John McCain's military record as an irrelevance.
Well, I don't think riding in a fighter plane and getting shot down is a qualification to be president. He has traveled all over the world, but he hasn't held executive responsibility.
McCain's service, including 5 years as a POW, is a central part of his biography. Today he called Clark's criticism unnecessary, but then added this.
And if that's the kind of campaign that Senator Obama and his surrogates and his supporters want to gauge, I understand that. But it doesn't reduce the price of a gallon of gas by 1 penny.
Now, Obama later rejected Clark's comments about McCain, but they certainly got a lot of attention. Katie?
And Dean, we heard that today Barack Obama and Bill Clinton actually had a phone conversation. Do you know anything about that conversation, what was said and the tone of it?
Well, it's interesting how elusive a former president can be. Obama has tried for weeks to get in touch with Bill Clinton, but it failed until today, and I think that's a sign of the lingering bitterness that we hear about from this campaign. In any case, he did call Bill Clinton today, and the former president did pick up the phone and talk to him for about 20 minutes. Both sides say this was either a terrific conversation or a very good conversation. Both men praised each other, and both said they were looking forward to campaigning side by side in the fall.
So it seems as if for now they've buried the hatchet, or at least Bill Clinton has buried the hatchet?
That's right. I think there was pressure building on them to do just that, because to do otherwise, to continue this sort of bitterness, would ultimately hurt the guy that they want to win the election.
All right. Dean Reynolds. Dean, as always, thank you very much. Now to another issue in the presidential campaign, and that is, of course, the soaring price of oil. It hit a new high today, more than $143 a barrel, before closing at $140 even. So far this year, oil is up 46%, and oil industry executives gathered today in Europe to figure out how to bring calm to this turbulent market. Here's Elizabeth Palmer.
The executives who control most of the oil on the planet met in Madrid today, but even they didn't want to predict where prices are heading.
I think that based on fundamentals, we should be not over what we have today, but who knows?
Those fundamentals show there's plenty of oil available right now. In fact, over the past 10 years, while global demand has risen from 74 to just over 85 million barrels a day, supply has roughly kept pace. But in the same period, China's consumption alone has roughly doubled. And many analysts think it's the fear that demand will soon outstrip supply that sent prices soaring. But in Baghdad today, Iraq's oil minister had an encouraging announcement.
The targeted production is to add another 1.5 million barrels a day.
The violent insurgency that attacked refineries and pipelines has crippled Iraq's oil industry, which was already in rough shape after years of sanctions under Saddam. Now, though, Iraq has decided to invite foreign, including U.S. oil companies, back in to help boost production for the first time since the industry was nationalized in 1972. Not everybody likes the idea. Ali says what many believe, that America invaded his country for oil and now U.S. companies are taking control. Not so, said Hussein Shahrastani, the oil minister, in an exclusive interview with CBS News. What kind of pressure have you been under from the United States?
This may surprise you and your audience, but I will say it in very clear words, none.
Even with foreign help, though, Iraq will only be pumping an extra 2 million barrels a day by 2013. Not enough to ease the squeeze now for consumers at the pump. Elizabeth Palmer, CBS News, Baghdad.
Now to those Northern California wildfires, and the numbers keep growing. More than 1,400 fires are burning. They've consumed almost 600 square miles. And one of the biggest fires is in the famous Big Sur region. John Blackstone is there tonight.
In difficult-to-reach hilly terrain on California's central coast, one of the largest fires remains stubbornly out of control. 40,000 acres have been consumed, and this fire is only 3% contained. It burned to the very edges of Big Sur's tourist attractions. You had flames coming over pretty close to you here.
Yeah, right behind me, just on the top of the snow, about 300 or 400 feet above the highway, we had 30-foot-high flames.
At Kirk Gaffell's restaurant, business has fallen by 80% at the start of the busy summer season.
The timing, could never be good for something like this, but this is about the worst possible timing.
It's unusually early in the fire season, but Big Sur's rugged forests are vulnerable to wildfires.
This is an area that's seen fire before.
So is it a challenge to get, when there's so many fires going on, is it a challenge to get the resources now?
It is. It can be a real challenge.
Over the weekend, the federal government sent 8 C-130 firefighting aircraft to help douse California flames. These giant tankers can drop nearly 3,000 gallons of fire retardant when the pilots can see. But heavy smoke across the state has left much of the job to firefighters on the ground.
Resources are stretched thin.
Josh White says lighting backfires, depriving the larger fire of material to burn, has been paying off.
When we do that, we decide when and where the fire is going. Normally it's Mother Nature that controls.
But Mother Nature is responsible for the unusually dry conditions that seem set to give firefighters a long and busy fire season.
It's hard to say. Yeah, you live in California, it's always going to burn.
And it's burning so heavily here now in Big Sur that what is usually a clear view down 60 miles of spectacular coastline just disappears into the smoke. Katie?
All right, John Blackstone. John, thank you very much. On Wall Street today, stock prices closed mixed. The Dow managed a small gain, but the Nasdaq lost 22 points. Halfway through the year, the Dow is down 14%, the worst showing in 38 years. And there is much more CBS News ahead. A new square jug tries to corner the market, but has a lot of people crying over spilled milk. And up next, there's more oil here than in all of the Mideast. And it's right here in the U.S.